Hi, welcome back to Masechet Ta'anit Daf Gimel Amud Bet. We're going to start with the wind, beginning from where you were working on in Chavruta this past Friday. And I am going to be asking you to make a structure chart and then one additional question at the end. Ruchot, we skip words in parentheses, so I'm starting from Ruchot. Ruchot minalan de lo ma'atzrei. How do we know, from where do we know, minalan, that winds never stop blowing? Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, de Amar Kra. So Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi says, as it says in a pasuk, as we're told by the Torah, Ki ka'arba ruchot hashamayim perasti etchem ne'um Hashem. Something about, the Gemara is going to figure out the exact translation, but like the four winds of the world, like the four directions of the world, I have spread you out. That's what God says. Mai ka'amar lahu. What is it that God is saying to them? Ilema hachika marlahu. If you were to say, this is what God is saying to them, meaning, hachika marlahu hakadosh baruch hu Yisrael, this is what God is saying to the Jews. Dibidratrinchu be'arba ruchei da'alma. That I spread you out, I made you dwell, I spread you to all four directions of the world, right? I spread you out as far as possible. If that's what you think it was saying, ihachi ke'arba, be'arba mibakilei. If so, if that's really what it were saying, what about the fact that it says ke'arba, right? The pasuk says like the four directions. It should have said be'arba, I spread you out in the four directions of the world. In other words, we're not going to accept the reading that says that this pasuk is claiming that God or is God claiming that God spread the Jewish people out to all corners of the world, which sounds kind of like a negative thing. Ela hachika amar. Rather, this is what God is saying. Kashem she'iyafshar le'olam b'lo ruchot, kach iyafshar le'olam b'lo Yisrael. Just as it is impossible for the world to exist without wind, so too it is impossible for the world to exist without the Jewish people, and that's why they exist in the world like the four winds of the world, not in the four winds of the world. And that answers the question of how we know that the wind never stops. Amar Rabbi Chanina. Hilkach, bimot hachama, amar mashiv haruach ein machzirinoto. Therefore, in the days of sun, in the sunny days, when not the rainy season, if one says mashiv haruach, we don't make him go back. We don't correct that person. It's okay to say mashiv haruach, even in the sunny season. Amar morid hagashem machzirinoto. But if you were to say morid hagashem, then we would make you go back and correct yourself. It's not supposed to rain in the sunny season, but it's okay for it to be windy all the time. Bimot hagshamim lo amar mashiv haruach ein machzirinoto. And in the rainy season, if the person didn't say mashiv haruach, we don't correct that person, presumably because it's windy all the time anyway. Lo amar morid hagashem machzirinoto. But if you didn't say morid hagashem, then we do correct you, because we want to pray for rain. As we've already seen, we want to pray for rain in the appropriate time. V'lo od, ela afilo amar ma'avir haruach u'mafriach hatal ein machzirinoto. And not only this, lo od, not just that, I'll go a step further. Even if a person said, keep the wind and do away, even if the person actively prayed for them to stop, ein machzirinoto. We don't correct that person, presumably because they never stop. And this goes back to our conversation of the theology of weather as expressed in the Gemara. Tana, we have another teaching. Be'avim u'v'ruchot lo chivu chachamim lahazkir. When it comes to clouds and wind, the Chachamim did not obligate us to mention those things. V'im ba lahazkir mazkir. But if you want to mention it, you can mention it. My taima, what's the reason? Mishum de lo ma'atzrei, because these things never stop. So similar to what we saw about wind and dew, but this time it's clouds and wind. V'lo ma'atzrei? Question mark, exclamation point. Do they really not stop? Sometimes when you see two sets of words side by side, it seems like the same words. It's going to be hard to keep reading them, one after the other. You notice that you need some punctuation. So this is actually a question, a rhetorical question. Is it really true that they don't that these things never stop. V'hatani Rav Yosef, but didn't Rav Yosef teach a Braita? Ve'atzaret hashamayim. The pasuk says ve'atzaret hashamayim. Pasuk in Varim from the Tochacha. This is a bad thing, right? That God will stop up the skies. Min ha'avim u'min ha'ruchot. That means that God will stop the clouds and stop the wind. Ata omer min ha'avim u'min ha'ruchot. Oh, eino ela min ha'matar. You're saying that this pasuk that says ve'atzaret hashamayim means I'll stop the clouds and the wind, or maybe it just means the normal translation here that God will stop it from raining. Kishehu omer v'lo yeh matar. But when the pasuk goes on to say v'lo yeh matar, right? God says, ve'atzaret hashamayim v'lo yeh matar. Right? God will stop the sky and there won't be rain. Hari matar amor. So that part of the pasuk is talking about rain. Ha ma'ani mikayem ve'atzaret hashamayim. So why does it also need to say ma'ani mikayem, literally? How do I uphold? How do I read the words ve'atzaret hashamayim? Given that later in the pasuk it specifically says God won't give us rain, the atzaret hashamayim part must mean something else that isn't rain. Min ha'avim u'min ha'ruchot. Okay, so that part must be that we stop wind and rain, right? That's the part that means we stop wind and rain. And so we have a Braita that seems to assert that actually wind and rain can stop. Put all that in red print because it's a Braita. Kasha ruchot aruchot, kasha avim avim. So we have a kasha, we have a contradiction between wind and wind. We have a contradiction between wind and wind, and a contradiction between clouds and clouds. In other words, there's one source that said originally we said wind and clouds don't stop, and now we're saying that they can stop. That's a kasha. Avima avim lo kasha. Nope, no contradiction between clouds and clouds. Habe charfe, habe aflai. Nope, there's no contradiction, because basically one is about one type of clouds and the other is about the other type of clouds. And it seems that the two different types, charfe and aflai, so charfe are the clouds that come before the rain, and the aflai are the clouds that come after the rain. So the ones that come before the rain, like those always come. Those don't stop because you have to have clouds in order to have rain. But you don't always get clouds after the rain. That's not an always occurrence. So when the pasuk is talking about clouds stopping, it's talking about a certain type of clouds, but there are always clouds in the world. Very similar to what we saw the Gemara do regarding dew. Ruchot ruchot lo kasha, and wind to wind is not a contradiction either. There's no problem there. Habaruch mutsuya, habaruch she'ina mutsuya. Just one is talking about a common wind, right? A not too intense wind, like sort of normal wind conditions, because those always exist in the world. Habaruch she'ina mutsuya. And the other is talking about a ruach she'ina mutsuya, which is like a much stronger wind, and that could stop. That doesn't always exist in the world. So we're comfortable saying the pasuk was talking about stopping certain types of clouds and certain types of wind, but there's always some clouds and wind in the world. The Gemara has one more problem with this interpretation. Ruach she'ina mutsuya chazi lebei darei. But a ruach, a wind that is this uncommon type of wind, this much stronger type of wind, is good for, is appropriate for, or is good for beidare. It's good for the threshing floor, for separating out the wheat from the chaff. So it's like not so okay to say that wind stops, because maybe we should really pray for that wind. If that wind doesn't always exist, maybe we should be praying for it because it has a positive function in the world. The Gemara says, no, efshar b'nafuta. It's possible to do this with a nafeh and a kavara. It's possible to do this with a sifter, basically. In other words, it's okay if the Ruach Sheina Mitzuyah doesn't always exist in the world. We don't have to pray for it because there's a manual process that we can use to separate the wheat from the chaff. There's machinery to do that, so it's okay if that wind doesn't exist. Okay, Gemara is shifting a little bit. We've established that certain things always exist in the world while other things do not. Tana, we have another teaching. Ha'avim v'haruchot shniyot l'matar. Clouds and wind are second to rain, are secondary to rain, meaning maybe like second only to rain. Like they're still really important. Clouds and wind are still really important. Hechidami, what's the case or how is this so? Give us an example. How exactly are they so good? Amar Ula, v'itema Rabbi Yehuda. Ula said, or some say it was Rabbi Yehuda who said, Debatar Mitra. That these are the ones that come after rain. So clouds are really good after rain, and wind is really good after rain. They have a very positive function, apparently. Lamemrin Zamal Yutzahi? Question mark, exclamation point. Does this mean to say that they're good, they're great? The Haktiv, this is what I call a challenge proof, a proof to prove that the challenge is correct. So doesn't it say, Yiten Hashem et mataratzacha avak ve'efer? God will make the rain. God will make the rain from the sky, or the rain that falls on your land, dust and ashes. Right? That's bad. So it sounds like that is actually a bad thing and not a good thing. This pasuk is making it sound like coming after rain is bad, and the Gemara is going to explain Va'amar Ula v'itim Rav Yehuda, and either Ula or Rav Yehuda explains Zika debatar mitra. This is talking about wind that comes after rain. In other words, when it says that God will make the rain into dust or ashes, that's talking about the wind that comes after rain and like whips up the dust or ashes and makes it not makes it not have a good effect. But the Gemara says, Lo kasha, no, it's not a problem. Hada ata nicha, hada ata razia. There's just different types of wind. This is one, literally, this one comes nicha, nicely or softly, and this one comes, razia is like with strength, strongly. So gentle wind after rain is good, and that's what this statement about wind being good was talking about. But strong wind after rain is bad. You get, I guess, like sort of dust storms. Hadama le'avak, hadaloma le'avak, right? One whips up dust and one doesn't whip up dust. So, like, it's okay, right? Or you could read this with an ibayit ema, right? One whips up dust and one doesn't whip up dust. So, it's okay to have gentle rain. It's good to have gentle rain after gentle wind after rain, but it's bad to have strong wind after rain. V'amar Rav Yehuda, and Rav Yehuda said, Zika debatar mitra kimitra. Wind after rain is like rain, meaning it's as good as rain. Eva debatar mitra kimitra. And clouds after rain are also like rain, meaning they're as good for the ground, for the crops, as rain. Shimsha debatar mitra kitre matre. And sun after rain is as good as 2 rainstorms. All those things are really good. The me'ute mai. The Gemara wants to know to exclude what? In other words, basically, Rav Yehuda, you just said weather is really good. So what is it that you don't think would be good? Is there any weather you would not like? The me'ute gilhe delele v'shimsha debene karchai. This excludes light at night, so I guess moonlight, that kind of thing. And it also excludes partly cloudy days or partly sunny days when the sun is between the clouds and it's like dark in some places and bright in other places. So those 2 kinds of weather are not good. Amar Rava, ma'ale talga leture kechamisha mitre la'ara. Snow, talga, the taf switches out for a shin, so sheleg. Sheleg is as good for mountains as 5 rains are for the ground. Shina Emar, how does he know this? From a pasuk, Ki l'sheleg ya'amer hu eretz v'geshem matar v'geshem matarot uzo. A pasuk in Eov, which is speaking about snow and says, compares it to rain, but the word rain is mentioned, compares it to rain, but the word rain is mentioned 5 times. Geshem, matar, geshem, that's 3. And matarot, so that's matar plural, so that's 2, so that's 5. Okay, so that's this proof that snow is as good for mountains as 5 rains for the earth. Ve'amar Rava, another weather statement from Rava. Talga l'Toreh mitra, snow is good for mountains. Mitra raziel ilane, and strong rain is good for trees. Mitra nicha lepere, light rain is good for fruit. Orpila afila lepritzida de tute kala, mehanule. And orpila, which seems to mean like drizzle, like really light rain, mist maybe, is even good for the seeds that are basically like under the rocks or under the ground, in the cracks or the crevices. It's good for them. It helps them. Mahanule is it's good for them. My orpila. What is this word orpila? Even the Gemara is not too sure about this particular Aramaic word, sort of where it comes from. And the Gemara answers, urupile. It's a combination of 2 words, wake up little seeds. So it indicates that this rain, this very light drizzle, awakens the seeds and allows them to sprout. Ve'amar Rava, hai tzorba mirabanan dami lepritzida de tute kala. Torah scholars, young Torah scholars, tzorba mirabanan, literally like firebrands, fiery Torah scholars, young fiery Torah scholars, are like these little seeds under the clods of earth. Tekiva navat navat, which once they sort of burst forth and start growing, they keep on going up. Okay, we're supposed to see the early stages of Torah scholars. They're like these little seeds, and they get watered, and then they burst forth. The Amar Rava, more from Rava, hai tzorba mirabanan deratach, oraita hu tekamerat chale. When one of these fiery young Torah scholars gets angry, when they boil, literally, ritchaz boil, it's the Torah that's making them boil. It's the Torah that's boiling within them. Shene'emar, as it says, halo kodvarai ke'esh ne'um Hashem. Isn't my word like fire, says God. And it seems Rashi here interprets that, it's not exactly clear what this means, but Rashi seems to be interpreting it as when Torah scholars get angry, it's just that they're very the Torah gives you a very sensitive soul. It opens up your heart, and so you pay attention to things. You're more mocking on things. You pay more attention to things than other people do. And so when they get angry, when Torah scholars get angry, you have to be dan l'kav zchut. You have to judge them favorably. Right? The reason that they're so upset by things is because they have these sort of sensitive souls as developed by the Torah. The Amar Rav Ashi, kol talmid chacham she'ino kasher kebarzel, eino talmid chacham. Any talmid chacham, any scholar of Jewish texts who is not as hard as iron, is not really a talmid chacham. Shene'emar, ukepati shepotzet sela. As it says, now I'll be encouraging you to look at this pasuk, like a hammer that bursts open a rock, that breaks open a rock. That's a description for, sometimes seen as a description for the action of Torah study. It's compared to someone taking a hammer and smashing a rock, and then getting lots of sparks or pieces of the rock out of that, and that's like learning Torah. So this pasuk proves that in order to be a true talmid chacham, you have to be hard as iron. Amar li Rabbi Abba le Rav Ashi. So Rabbi Abba says to Rav Ashi in response to this, Atun mehatim matnitula. You guys learn the idea that a Torah scholar has to be hard as iron from that pasuk. Anan mehacha matnitinla. But we learn it from here. Dichtiv, Eretz asher avaneha barzel. It's just a different pasuk that, according to him, proves the same thing. A land whose rocks are iron. Oops, this word is part of the pasuk also. Al tikri avaneha, ella boneha. Don't read this as avaneha, it's rocks, but rather boneha, it's builders, which refers to Torah scholars. Amar Ravina. Ravina, who's probably the latest Amora in this discussion, probably the last, chronologically the last rabbi in this discussion, also actually sort of the end of this conversation. He's a student of Rav Ashi, contemporary and student of Rav Ashi. They're both students of Rava's. So Ravina says, Afil hachi, even so, notwithstanding all of this conversation about Torah scholars being hard like iron, mi ba'ilei it is required of people, lemelaf nafshe, to teach their souls, benichuta, or to conduct their souls is better, to have in their souls, nichuta nachat, pleasantness, niceness, shne'emar v'haser ka'as milibcha v'gomer. As it says in Kohelet, that you have to remove anger from your heart. So, like, notwithstanding the fact that Torah scholars maybe have to be strong and hard, all people, even Torah scholars, have to learn how to behave themselves with pleasantness. So we're stopping here. I'd like you to make a structure chart. This one will really challenge you to abbreviate and make things brief because I don't want you to have to write out all these statements. And my second question is, can you pick up on a couple of keywords as you do the structure chart? Give me 3 terms that you see as keywords in this section because they introduce questions, because they introduce answers, and suggest a meaning and a function. It's okay if you're not totally right about those, but I want to see where you see the keywords here, and I've given you some of them as we went along in the video, some of them more obviously, some of them more subtly, so that's what I'd like to do. And just to be aware, in class, I'd like to focus on, for discussion, this last piece and really get a sense of what you think about these guidelines for what it means to be a Talmid Chacham. Okay, we'll stop there.